This contestant from the winning team had no idea that one mistake would cost him his well-earned reward. But what happened next was even worse.
Give me your jacket. Your time is done in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, today I'm going over some of the most brutal mistakes to have ever been made on Hell's Kitchen. And what happened with this chef left his entire team shaken. I'm of course talking about Jeremy Madden from season 11. So during the breakfast service, Jeremy was holding down the croissant station, but that's when things went south real quick. On the first order, he was basically playing charades with Chef Ramsay because he failed to communicate anything.
Hey, he's not even answering me. Can I get an answer from you?
Yes, you can.
Chef Ramsay was fuming, and Jeremy's "I didn't hear it" excuse definitely didn't help things.
I wasn't able to hear it, Chef.
Oh, man.
That's when Anthony gave him a heads up on how much time he needed for an omelet, but Jeremy, who still wasn't in much of a mood to listen, couldn't catch the hint.
How much longer on your guys'
I mean, seriously, dude, what was the point of playing dumb? And just when you thought he'd redeem himself, things got even worse. Jeremy just stood right in front of his station holding a croissant like it was a precious gem. And you have to give it to Chef Ramsay. I mean, the way he mimicked Jeremy's "I'm a statue" act was hilarious.
Jeremy standing in the middle there like that with his breakfast. Come round then, big boy.
Anthony had to practically order him to get moving, and when he finally brought the dish to the pass, the smoked salmon was MIA. Jeremy dashed to the back of the kitchen in haste to fix his mistake. But what he did put an end to was his time on the show.
Watch your back, come on, come down.
Jeremy just couldn't do a single thing right for the entire service. Not a damn thing. And I don't even have to tell you about how Chef Ramsay reacted to the whole mess. It was wild.
Some disgusting pig brought me the sample scrambled eggs.
While Jeremy was off on his plate hunting adventure, the rest of the guys actually managed to serve their first order. Imagine that. Anyway, despite the chaos, the blue team somehow managed to pull through, serving all of their tickets before the red team. They celebrated with some hugs, proving that even a mess like Jeremy couldn't stop them from coming out on top.
The blue team could actually win. This is amazing.
But here comes the epic twist. While the red team was nominating its members for elimination, Chef Ramsay made a shocking announcement.
The person leaving Hell's Kitchen is Jeremy.
There was no going back from what Jeremy had done. Despite being on the winning team, Jeremy was shown the door. Talk about a total letdown. Chef Ramsay didn't hold back, calling out Jeremy for his unforgivable move. In his exit interview, Jeremy admitted his mistake, but vowed to keep fighting, proudly claiming that he was still a fantastic chef. You see, in a competition like this, having a strong team is key. But when this guy messed up, his teammates felt the burn too. And despite the win, the blue team was left with a pair of hands less to fend for themselves. With that, let's hop over to Michael's disastrous dinner service from season 14. Michael was at the garnish station during the dinner service, arguably one of the most crucial spots. However, Chef Ramsay and sous chef James quickly noticed that he wasn't pulling his weight.
You're so keen about getting your stuff ready. How about looking overall?
As a result, Millie had to step in and do the flatbreads that were clearly Michael's responsibility. Ramsay, never one to hold back, called him out for being too absorbed in his own station, oblivious to the chaos around him. As if that wasn't bad enough already, Michael made a dangerous move by doing this.
Fucking Jesus. What are you doing?
Chef, I put it away, Chef.
The worst part, he left that scorching hot pan on a nearby rack. And Chef Ramsay wasn't having any of it.
They're talking, they go down and grab a pan and scold themselves.
Chef Ramsay rightfully scolded him, pointing out the severe burn someone could get if they unknowingly grabbed hold of the sizzling hot pan. When Michael tried to defend himself, Chef Ramsay only got angrier. Viewers questioned Michael's apology since he didn't really seem remorseful when Chef Ramsay discovered the issue. Some viewers believe he might have left the pan on purpose because his reaction to getting caught just didn't seem genuine. To top it all off, Michael rushed his garnishes despite Nick telling him that he needed another minute.
I need a minute, okay?
One extra minute heard.
Yes, thank you. Michael, I said a minute.
Their joint failure led to both teams losing the service. In the end, they had to nominate 2 people each for elimination. And it turned out to be a night to forget for Michael. When you're in Hell's Kitchen, losing focus, ignoring responsibilities, and risking your teammates' safety, that's a recipe for disaster.
You made me come here because of your poor performance.
Michael found himself on the chopping block as the blue team's first nominee, along with Nick as the second, joining 2 others from the red team.
Step forward.
In his plea, he claimed that he had the skills and experience to be Ramsay's head chef, despite the rocky start that he'd had. However, Chef Ramsay wasn't gonna let him forget his mistakes so easily.
I had a rough start, Chef.
You didn't the start. That's just it.
In his exit interview, Michael couldn't help but blame literally everyone else for his downfall.
You know, serving raw pork, serving plastic in a salad. I made one mistake. I don't feel that should have sent me home.
He strongly believed that his mistake shouldn't have cost him his spot. But Chef Ramsay had the final word, quipping, "Fortunately for Michael, he can go back to his job at the senior center. Unfortunately for his residents, it's as the chef." Ouch, that must have stung real bad. Tough break for Michael, but in Hell's Kitchen, there's no room for excuses, and every mistake can become your ticket to home. But this next contestant, Jessica Boynton from season 16, will forever be remembered for some really strong remarks. Remember when she made a bold statement by saying, "We schooled them today, and we're gonna keep schooling them until all the boys are gone"? Maybe you should have focused on yourself first, Jessica. I mean, talk about foreshadowing. Now, before we dive into her epic elimination, let's talk about the drama that unfurled back at the dorms. Jessica, for whatever reason, was so thrilled about the men's loss that she couldn't help but rub it in their faces.
We schooled them today, and we're going to keep schooling them until all those boys are gone.
She was all about the ladies winning, and her wish for all the guys to go home was crystal clear. But guess what? Her taunting didn't sit very well with the men. Johnny had had enough of her and told her to stay away from him for the rest of the season.
Just stop talking to me for the rest of the season.
Andrew chose to be less subtle and ended up dropping some choice words.
Shut the up. I confess I hate Jessica. Pretty much. Yep, hate her.
Ouch. Jessica got all emotional and ended up in tears, wondering if the blue team really hated her or if they were just intimidated by her.
I don't know if they're intimidated or they really don't like me now.
Honestly, it was just a classic case of you reap what you sow. I mean, she was the one provoking the guys, and all they did was ask her to zip it. So she really shouldn't be shocked to receive a taste of her own medicine. Lesson learned, I guess. As you may know, Hell's Kitchen is known to deliver reality checks. Let's get back to the epic showdowns. During the dinner service, Jessica was serving a rock shrimp pesto tagliatelle appetizer tableside, and that's when things quickly went south. Marino caught her overcooked tagliatelle and brought it to Chef Ramsay's attention.
Look at the pasta, it's overcooked, it looks like a mush.
Despite her several protests, Chef Ramsay did this.
All of you dig in and taste it. I'm sending 2 salmon, 2 Wellington. Stay there, stay there.
This, in addition to the raw salmon and Wellington, led to the red team's disastrous loss. During the nominations, Jessica shocked everyone by volunteering herself, thinking it was the respectful thing to do. Well, she was probably trying to pull the Petroza move. But here's the kicker, she was furious that no one else stepped up. Packing her bags was a dumb move, and her teammates tried to snap her out of it. Wendy and Shayna practically begged her not to give in, but she just couldn't see it through. Kimberly even tried to rally her spirits, pointing out that Chef Ramsay would likely send Gia home. But her attitude ended up being more like a pick me for elimination sign flashing in neon colors.
I nominated myself. I felt everyone on that team should have nominated themselves because we all failed.
In her defense, she probably assumed Chef Ramsay would save her for the day. However, that's not what happened. Jessica found herself on the chopping block. During her plea, Chef Ramsay questioned her self-nomination, but she justified it with shame.
I did it because I didn't want all the arguing and fighting.
Heidi called her out, stating that there was no arguing whatsoever during the deliberations. And Chef Ramsay, unimpressed with the turn of events, asked her if she was done fighting. And what was her response? She didn't want any more arguments, having grown up in a household filled with them. But Gia ended up spilling the beans about her.
She's already packed. I'm not packed. I'm ready to stay here.
Chef Ramsay was shocked. And the man didn't take another minute to make his decision.
I have not got faith in you, and you are not ready to be a head chef. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef.
Good night.
He eliminated Jessica, citing her self-nomination and defeatist attitude as unworthy traits of a head chef. In her exit interview, she tried to shift the blame to Gia, but admitted her downfall was the result of her lack of fight. Chef Ramsay's comment hit hard. A chef who can't handle confrontation is like a boxer who doesn't want to get hit. Jessica just threw in the towel. Tough words, but what Chef Ramsay was trying to say is that in Hell's Kitchen, you've got to be able to take the heat. If not, you get the boot. We delved into Reddit to gauge the viewers' opinions on how long she would have stayed on Hell's Kitchen if she didn't put herself up. One commenter argued that Gia should have been eliminated that night, but Jessica wasn't any better, so she would have left within the next 2 nights or so anyway. Another commenter expressed that Jessica had a quitter attitude, which is never gonna get anyone far on a show like Hell's Kitchen, right? But what are your thoughts? How long do you think she would have made it on the show? But this next chef didn't just mess with her game, but practically sunk her whole team. Well, I'm talking about Suzanne Schlitt from season 6. Remember her infamous line, "My food is classical, my food is perfect, I can kick anybody's ass"? Well, she ended up kicking her own butt alongside those of her teammates in episode 5.
This is a great opportunity to showcase my talent.
It was the Welcome Home Planning Challenge, and Suzanne, along with Robert, got the lowdown from the sergeant's wife about the menu. Like the detailed info about all the items that can be included and what's not to be. Now, you'd think she'd relay that info to her team, right? No, not Suzanne. Instead, she decided to do this.
What kind of sauce do we want for the steak?
I don't know if they're into sauce.
She pitched her own ideas, completely ignoring what the sergeant's wife actually wanted. I mean, come on, it was the Welcome Home Planning Challenge, not the Suzanne show. To make matters worse, she played the dictator, shutting down Tennille's jambalaya sauce proposal and insisted on being the idea generator while the others executed. You can clearly see how much her teammates were pissed at her.
We weren't on nobody's agenda but Suzanne.
And on top of it, she scoffed at the blue team's macaroni dish, thinking she knew better. In truth, the girls were this close to winning the challenge, but Suzanne's broiled lobster tail creation failed to make the cut.
Grill, didn't you pay attention, Suzanne? Grill lobster tail, you understand what I'm saying?
In the end, they lost the challenge 1-2 thanks to her failed leadership.
I'm gonna have to go with the fellas.
Back at the dorms, the red team was rightfully pissed as hell at Suzanne. She didn't share crucial details like soul food that could have helped them win. Later, she and Tennille had it out over her terrible leadership skills, and honestly, calling her crazy at that point might have been an understatement. It was like she was playing a whole different game than everybody else, and her team had to pay the price.
We never heard the word soul food. That would have taken our dishes in a totally different direction.
Well, we've seen our fair share of idiotic blunders today, but let's not forget the colossal mistake made right at the start during the signature dish challenge.
Fucking hell. Are you crazy?
Antonia Borgman's Hell's Kitchen journey was one of the shortest in the show's history, and it's not hard to see why. When Chef Ramsay laid his eyes on our Mardi Gras gumbo, his reaction was totally unexpected.
Does it normally look like a plate of liquid shit?
No.
Tough crowd, huh? Now, appearances can be misleading, but this dish left no room for doubt. Chef Ramsay reluctantly took a bite of Antonia's gumbo, and I'm sure he despises that moment to this very day.
Have you tasted that?
What's more, Chef Ramsay wasn't in a mood to hold back, so he gave her an earful for serving something so inedible.
I'm sorry, it wasn't up to par.
Up to par? It's unedible.
Throw it out.
No, I'm not gonna throw it out.
To really drive the point home, he had every contestant take a bite so they could all share in the horror and pain of what he'd just experienced. And the fellow contenders' reactions were priceless.
It was completely repulsive.
At least it was a memorable start to her Hell's Kitchen journey. But she should probably leave the gumbo making to the pros. But this next contestant's signature dish disaster was definitely one for the books. Matt decided it was a genius move to combine raw venison, scallops, caviar, and white chocolate into what he called a raw surf and turf thing.
Do you smoke?
Cigarettes?
No.
I'm sure you can see where this is going. Definitely not anywhere good, right? Even Chef Ramsay, who's known for his adventurous palate, was hesitant to taste this bizarre concoction.
Raw venison, raw quail egg, and grated white chocolate.
And when he finally mustered the courage to take a bite, well, let's just say it didn't end well. It came back out as fast as it went in. It was a classic case of a chef trying to be experimental without having a clue about how flavors work. You know you've gone horribly wrong when your dish makes Gordon Ramsay sick. Lesson learned, I hope. But this next contestant's mistake was the most brutal one ever. I'm talking about Melissa Donnie, the contestant who Chef Ramsay summed up with the classic line, she had a red jacket, she had a blue jacket, and now she has no jacket at all. Basically, she left Hell's Kitchen after messing up both the red and blue kitchen up. In episode 6, she got switched over to the blue team in hopes that things might improve for her. But man, it was a wild ride. She was stationed at the fish counter during the dinner service, and her scallops were a complete disaster.
What?
I cooked the shit out of all the scallops. I the team, chef.
The first batch she sent to Rob for his salad was basically raw, and the second attempt ended up being burnt to a crisp. If I didn't know any better, I'd think we were watching Kitchen Nightmares right now. But no, these are real, actual professional chefs. Later, she tried a third time with a refire, but Rob wouldn't have it.
Give me better scallops than this. These are no good.
He rejected it, claiming that they were overcooked this time around. Melissa was understandably frustrated. I mean, who wouldn't be after all that? And then came the bombshell.
Just come here. All of you,
Yes,
stop.
chef.
Unbelievable, right? Chef Ramsay went crazy.
Take the plate. Take the fucking plate. Pass it round.
And the crazy part is, she pulled a similar stunt in the previous episode when she was in the red team, but with fillets. Chef Ramsay had to throw them all out because they were overcooked and unusable for the rest of the night. It's like deja vu in the kitchen, but not in a good way. But here's the twist, even though she managed to avoid elimination that night, Chef Ramsay had simply had enough. He was done with the scallop fiasco and decided to send her home.
It's time to go.
Thank you very much for
Thank you very much.
Well, Melissa's Hell's Kitchen journey might have been short, but it sure left an impression. Now, can you think of any more mistakes that turned the entire kitchen upside down? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And by the way, you can now join me on my channel's Discord server for free. What's more, cruising on over to the membership tab right here, you can now get access to some really cool perks and some crazy updates from the channel. But before you do that, make sure to smack that like, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications. Also, don't forget to check out my latest video right here since it's even crazier.